I guess welcome to the first Shore and Partners World Ocean Series. I don't know if it's a podcast, but we've just wrapped up the introduction to the season. We had the launch of the 2025-26 Shore and Partners World Ocean Series. Dates, locations all named, joined by CEO of Shore and Partners, Earl Evans. Welcome to the pod, and co-owner of Race One Surfcraft. And then director of the World Ocean Summer Shore and Partners World Ocean Series.
You'll get there, mate.
Jeez, it's a lot of titles to remember. Trent, welcome.
A lot of Shore and Partners in there.
Oh man, man. Especially when I'm coming from my pod where it's just like say whatever if you want. Guys, welcome. Some really exciting announcements this morning. Dates, locations, all locked in. Earl, what did you make of it? Excited for the season to come?
Yeah, thrilled. Really, really good. I mean, I think like all things, you want to keep building on it, building on it, building on it. I think that that continuation, the prize money pool is very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
I think Trent, Ben and the team, yourself, all of the team just done an incredible job over the last sort of, 5 or 6 years we've been involved. The 8 years I've been involved in the sport now from a sponsorship level, but I'm really excited. I think the great part about it is there's some older athletes, Georgia retiring last year, Ali, is it his last year, not his last year, whatever, it's getting close, obviously, that's just, none of us are outrunning mortality or Mother Nature.
Father time.
Yeah, that's life. So, but the talent coming through at a young level, that's what I'm really excited to see. I'm excited to see, Connor Maggs, Riley Harland, there's some great athletes that are sort of coming through at a younger level that are the new generation. That's what I'm excited about.
Earl, I just hear like the passion that you talk about surf sports with, and we touched on it in the launch, but like where does this come from? You do have your fingers in a lot of pies. You're interested in a lot of sports, the V8s. We know very well that you're a huge enthusiast and supporter of that. Where did it come from? Why surf sports? How did it all start for you?
Well, like anything, I love competition. I love competition. Competition's a great thing, right? Like that's the essence of everything. So, I love the competitiveness of this particular sport. I love just the effort that goes into it. From a business perspective, obviously that's where I make not all my money, but that's where I make my money from is business. Business is about competing. It's about attention to detail. It's about effort. If you don't want to put the effort in, there's 10 people behind you that are going to put the effort in and beat you. So you need to be first in, last out, put the effort in. It's competitive. And I think I see that with all of this sport. Like it's got all of the machinations. It's got all of the, from a racing level, but also to, just from a club level. It's tribal, so it's very passionate. At a club level, everyone's passionate about their club. The hours they put in manning the beaches and putting into actually training people, whether it be from surf, whether it be from first aid, whether it be, a whole range of things. And I just really love it about it. I think it's appreciated by the clubs, the 300 plus clubs around the country. I think it's underappreciated the level of effort that the athletes go to, and at every level, professional and unprofessional, or juniors, I should say, not unprofessional, at a junior level. Just the effort that they put in is just unbelievable. I was on a plane back from Los Angeles yesterday, and I was talking to our hostess, 2 degrees of separation. Her 2 kids are a member of a club, and we started talking about it. And I said, this is going to sound sexist, it's not meant to be sexist, right? But the surf can be just huge, and the men go out and they're nervous. But some of the conditions that I've seen the women go out in, and I'm not saying they're, like I just sit there in awe of them. And with no fear, going into some of the conditions, it's just unbelievable. And I think that's the one thing in the last couple of years too. I think the women in iron sports for a period of time probably diminished a little bit. Going back to the Carly Gilbert days, there were some very, very good athletes, and I'm not suggesting that. But I think across the board, the standard, golf, tennis is the same. The standard in women's iron has lifted dramatically, I think, in the last few years. And across the board. Yeah. Across the board.
Yeah. Trent, that's something that you've always taken kind of great pride in. Like equality-wise, 12 years ago, when the men were racing for $100, the women were still racing for $100.
That's a lot easier.
Yeah, but is that something that... the early iterations, the Summer of Surf, but now the Shore and Partners World Ocean Series is something that you've taken pride in and made sure that stayed the same?
Yeah, it's always been a consistent and something we're proud of, but nothing we've ever sort of put in front of everyone and said, look what we're doing. But when you look back at it, and we had equal prize money in 2010, we had when we first broadcast on Fox Sports, we had equal television time, which was even that, it feels like not that long ago, 2014, but it was unheard of. The AFLW didn't exist then. Women's soccer professionally was only in certain parts of the world. And, so it's something we're really proud of, that we've been broadcasting our sport, as equal as we can.
Well,
but it's easy because they're
They're
phenomenal
amazing,
athletes,
right?
and the
Yeah.
racing's great.
They're doing the same course, same conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same gears, the
Why
same
shouldn't they get
size,
paid?
everything's the
100%.
same.
Why shouldn't they get paid?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
same.
It is funny you
it's
say
crazy.
that because I remember I was lining up for an Iron Series race one time at Curra, and it would have been 6 foot, absolutely heaving. And my mum actually came down and said, "Max, you don't have to go out if you're too scared." But and I probably wouldn't have if I didn't see all the Iron women go out there and absolutely dominate those conditions. So
Fearless. And
you're
so talented.
You're absolutely right. Or just another one, like you touched on, like that professionalism element, and I think that's something that you've brought to the sport that's probably flown under the radar a little bit. Like I walk around Race 1 HQ, and it's chalk and cheese to the Dolphin Factory I walked around. Is that something that you have gone out of your way to sort of bring into the sport, or is that just you as a person and the way you operate?
It's maybe a blend of both. I think to win you have to have attention to detail. You have to have branding. You have to have structure and process. And if the place is a jalopy and a mess, then how can you have structure and process? You just can't. And that's in any form. We sponsor close to 10 or 11 sports. I'm involved financially in ownership of 2 or 3 of them at a series level and a team level. And if you want to be successful, you have to have structure, you have to have process, you have to have tidiness. And it was one of the things we did here. We refurbished the factory, we bought in processes, we bought in systems. They're great tradespeople. They're absolutely great practitioners, the people that manufacture these craft. But you want to bring in the best facilities. You're producing the best product. To produce the best product, you have to have tidiness, efficiency, process. And if you look at motor racing, is a great example. Google anything in the 70s. They had rags sticking out the top of their shoulder and this and that. Now you could eat your dinner off the floor.
Yep.
They're still producing motor races that go around on bitumen and the same sort of thing. I think it's the same here. Yes, we're dealing with fiberglass and we're dealing with resins and we're dealing with processes, but that doesn't mean that you can't make sure that it's neat, tidy, and presentable. And I think that's a reflection of your craft. So for me, if you come into any of the Shaw and Partners offices or other businesses that I'm involved in, there is a bit of a tradition of making sure it's mint. And I think we've tried to bring that into the series with the branding, consistency. And I think that then brings other people saying, I want to be associated with that. Like if it's just a jalopy and looks terrible and it's dirty and it's messy and it's filthy and it's grubby and there's no branding and people are wearing hats all over the place. Well, who wants to be involved in that shit? Like I don't want to be. So I wouldn't be here had Trent and Ben and the team said, yeah, I'm on that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And Trento, you talk about grubby and dirty. When we were starting out, or when you were starting out, trying to create these sort of events, did you ever envisage that this is where it would end up?
Not really, mate. I just, I obviously grew up in the sport and I'm passionate about it. I love racing and I loved, the opportunities that it created for myself growing up with some role models taking me on the road. And so we did some really cool things and it just taught me who I am as a person. And I just decided at some point that I wanted to have a crack at racing, running some good races. And probably the biggest thing is we're essentially a small business. So we didn't know what we didn't know. And I'm probably glad that I didn't know much back then because it's been a pretty steep learning curve to look at, some of the ways we looked after our partners. There's stuff that I regret. There's some ways that we presented the beach that I'm like, geez, if you're not embarrassed with your early work, then you haven't been pushing hard enough. But we've come a long way and we've learned, we've run probably close to 200 events now. So a lot of people haven't, there's not many people who run it on the beach in probably the worst conditions you can, where you got rain and soft sand and all that many events. So we're learning, but we've got so far to go. We've got a big vision and it's just taking one step at a time. But these last few years, raising the bar in terms of consistency, the way we communicate, the way we look, that's what's led us to be able to rebrand as the World Ocean Series. And that's what's had, different countries, federations put their hand up and say, we want a World Ocean Series. We want a Shaw and Partners World Ocean Series right here in France. The UK have been fantastic. And we've got a couple on waiting in the wings going, well, where next? And they want the Shaw and Partners logo on their racewear. And that makes a difference. And that means that people are racing with pride, with something to chase. The more prestigious we act, the more prestigious the whole series is. Perception is reality.
You touch on like that vision, and we have European countries getting involved now and they want to run races, and Japan's interested. We have all this interest, and I think even closer to home, you guys are probably most proud of some of the junior racing that you've got on. Obviously, you made a great start last year. Talk us about some of the events coming up this year, and how good it is to have these junior races. Like I remember being 11, 12, 13, and thinking outside of a branch championships, there's not much on offer for me. So for these kids to race on the same stage as their idols the day after, I mean, that's got to be pretty special, right?
Oh mate, it's great, and it's been an evolution there too. Like we wanted to learn our straps running some open events, and initially it was a second tier series. Then we ran a top tier series with Earl coming on board and getting more and more passionate about the sport, getting involved in race one and seeing the sport, the entire landscape, and going, oh, well, we got to lift everywhere. And I think for a long time, Nippers itself has been iconic in Australia. And it's always, even in the years, I'd say sort of that 2010 period, those late noughties, the sport was, struggling a little bit. We weren't getting the ratings that probably these amazing athletes going around at the time deserved. But Nippers was still trucking along because Nippers teaches kids beach safety. It teaches them camaraderie. It teaches them so many positive things. So Nippers was trucking along. It's just the rest of the sport wasn't. So now we've kind of, I've played a small part in elevating the rest of the sport and then filtered through some of the lessons we've learned into some 15 to 17 racing and now down into the youth racing where, kids are really excited to throw on their team colours and race in, a race one arena or a Shaw and Partners arena. So it's cool, mate. Like it's hard because we're pushing the boundaries. We're trying to run races when often either a carnival organizer wouldn't host in those surf conditions or would move down the beach or modify it. And we're trying to go like we want to manage our risk properly, but we want to put kids, give them the opportunity to race in some pretty tough stuff. Because at the end of the day, it does come back to saving lives as well. And if you're testing the kids in those conditions, they're going to be able to do the job when someone's in trouble.
Yeah. We were touching on in the launch around, Ali Day, who's kind of aging out, Finn's up and coming, and then we have those junior guys. This year, again, you're going to have the Race 1 Championships. How exciting is that for you guys, and whose brainchild was that one?
I'm going to stake that.
Go for it, mate.
Yeah, no, look, I think we're that was my idea. I think, again, it was my idea on the mixed Taplin. But I think for me, it's like pushing boundaries. I know it was a big move for Trent and the team to go from the Summer of Surf, which, to be honest with you, I thought that name was a bit hokey. I thought it was a little bit, you're never going to really build this thing where you want it to be, world. We want this thing to be global. We want it to be world. We want it to be big. So I think in our partnership together, I can be a bit of a pain in the ass because I'm constantly pushing and niggling and saying to Ben, where the F are you? That's crooked. That Australian flag should be straighter. And where is the Australian flag? And what do we do? So, but that's continuing to push. And I think, the World Junior Ocean series is just fantastic. I think that was an innovation last year. There's been plenty of things that the guys have brought in as well. But I think as a group, we had a debrief a couple of weeks ago, and we sat there and we had a real honesty session. What was good? What was bad? What can we do better? How do we improve? And I think just testimony to the team, having two, one in France and one in the UK and another 5 countries ring on the back of it and go, hey, we can do the same thing. There's the bar. How do we get the bar to be higher? And that goes back to the facility here, like how do we do better? That's what we live and breathe every day. How do we do better? I do it in all my businesses, and I think the series and the athletes, there's something to really race for. Yes, it's prize money. You're not training for money per se, but you do want to get paid for it at the end of the day if you put in all the effort. You do want the best trophies. You do want the best platform, and you do want something that you put up on your socials and go, like I was saying to you before, just 5 minutes ago. You won your national title. I'll never be able to say that. And you beat some seriously talented kids. That's just awesome. To be able to do that, you'll look back in 10, 15, 20 years, as you know, and go, hey, I actually won the national title. That's cool shit. Yeah. So I think that's what the series is creating. I think to win this series is incredibly hard. Incredibly hard.
I'd argue the hardest.
I think that's right. I want to be polite because we sponsor a number of them, but I think it actually is the hardest to win. And, it's, but mixing it up and changing it, you have to keep doing that.
Yeah, keep adapting.
You have to. If you don't, people get bored and they tune out and, there it is again. So I think that's the challenge.
Yeah, and even this year, like it's days like today are fun. We have a launch and celebrate where we've come. Like and what you said before, like, did you think you'd be here giving away $500,000 across the summer? No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Like broadcasting globally when we were shooting on GoPros 10 years ago. No. So we're celebrating today. But 95% of the time, we're literally sitting and going, what are we doing wrong? How do we fix that? That's not the best. And that's really important to like go, all right, well, every single thing that we're doing needs to be looked at and lifted. So it's cool to celebrate it, but it's also, our job is to keep improving.
I think the crazy part about it though, going back to your original comment or your original question, there's no money in this. Like this is a part of a tribe. Like you make no money from it. I can tell you, I've seen the P&L. As a matter of fact, I know you lost a little bit last year. But you're doing it for the passion of the sport. That's what's incredible about it. And I hope and I think that they do. The athletes and the clubs really appreciate it. From us, no one's ringing me saying, hey, I want you to manage $5 million of my money or $1 million of my money. I fell in love with it, can afford to do it, so you're doing it. And I've really got to like the people. But I look at what the effort Ben goes to, Trent goes to. They're making no money. They've got their own lives to lead, run, whatever, and they're full on balls to the wall running these things. You're on a weekend, you've got people coming and complaining and bitching and moaning. You've got a lot of people coming up saying this is fantastic as well, I might add. But it's an orchestra. You say, what are you doing it for? Because you don't make any money from it. No, because I'm bloody passionate. We want to build it. So that's where it comes from, right?
Is that kind of where the synergy came from? Because obviously, Trent, like you started with a passion 12 years ago to try and make the sport better, and then obviously Earl comes in, with some investment. Is that how you guys kind of struck up this relationship in the first place? Both with not really an end goal. Nobody, like you said, nobody's here making money out of the sport. You're just kind of doing it for the love of it.
A little bit, mate. Like Earl actually got involved with the Shannon X team to start with, and the boys running that rang me to say, "Well, you're doing some good stuff, Trent. Can you help us make sure that we don't trip over ourselves here?" And they were always going to do a good job, but we just got involved and just lifted it, built a VIP, made sure the signage looked right, and just to do justice what Earl was putting his money into. And then it just sort of evolved. Like his whole passion for the sports evolved. He's gotten to know the athletes and for me, it's really business feels a lot like anything else, like sport, and it's having that experience where what we get from it, it's great to have the prize pool and it's really important, but the experience that you bring to the table, having built multiple businesses and grown brands, is we're looking to go, well, all right, what's the next stage? What's our next KPI that we should be looking at? That and nothing else. So when we sit down one-on-one with someone like Earl, just to go, all right, have we got our eyes on the prize? And he goes, no, you haven't. You're not even close.
Yep.
No, he's not too bad, but he's really helping us shape where we should be focusing the limited resources that we do have.
You learn, right? You both learn. Like I've been in it now 8 years, so I'm not an ufty. I'm not a newbie. Like I know it really, really well. I'm a great historian, so I've watched and read everything I possibly could going back years and years and years. So we're all learning from each other. You give me some feedback, and I come up with a crazy idea, and that's not going to work. I go to him and say, "Can you move the cans out a bit further? They need to be a bit longer because you want it short and sharp. I want a bit of a difference." Oh, you're doing that for Rally Day? No, I'm not. But it's been awesome. And the announcement for the upcoming series, and like I said, just great pride. I know that you're very, very proud. The team is. Those weekends are immense. I get the luxury of just standing there and looking around. The pressure these guys are under, and you sort of sit there and go, and putting their own reputations at risk too, because it is a dangerous sport. Yeah. Like when the surf's up, it's dangerous. Yep. And it's, again, I
tough
think
calls need to be made, right?
Mate, it's underappreciated to how tough this sport is. You get one of those, 17 and a half kilo skis bang you on the head, you're in a bit of trouble.
Strife.
So you've got to be aware, and it's an amazing sport. That's why I think it's just grossly underappreciated.
Yeah.
It's flipped a little lately too. So back when the sport was really top tier, firing for a while there, when the Uncle Toby's and the Nutri-Grain were fighting each other for the back page, those athletes were, like a Trevor Hendy, in the mix to be one of the greatest of all time. He was racing a bigger, deeper field, 40 guys in a pro series.
Yep.
He didn't win 5 series in a row, 10 series in a row. And we're getting, but he hit his straps. He might have won one race a year, and I don't want to, he was phenomenal, but that level of consistency that like a Shannon achieved or that an Ali's been achieving, is potentially becoming less realistic. So an excellent, great career might only be one race a year, one win a year, and it might only be one World Ocean Series. It might be one Shaw and Partners Iron Series.
Yeah.
And that's still phenomenal because the sport's lifting.
Yeah.
And it's harder and harder to do. So, everything changes, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, there is just so much racing now, Earl. Obviously, you got, the Shaw and Partners Iron Series as well, the Shaw and Partners World Ocean Series. You got the Shaw and Partners Coolangatta Gold. Like, you've got a number of things going on. It just looks like it's becoming, again, as someone who's racing them, it's just getting harder and harder all the time. It seems like the races, if not few, there's so many of them, but because of the depth of talent that is coming through and staying, I think that it's just getting harder and harder. Do you see that from your end? Like, like Ali put together, a string of 5 or 6 years where he's unbeaten. And then even last year, like, I think he might have won one World Ocean Series event. And it's just like, this guy's in this conversation for the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And he can only get one of these events a year. Like, I think that just kind of speaks to how competitive these events are.
Well, I think the kids is so good. When I say kids, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. But I think that's across the board in sport.
Yeah.
If you go back to, if you look at tennis, there was an 18-year-old put in a Formula One car. If you look at tennis, Alcaraz is 22 and he's won, 3 or 4 Grand Slams. They're winning them at 19 or 20. That sort of wasn't the case 20 years ago. So I think, the kids coming through, that's why I think the depth of the sport, and it's just grown. People actually are believing. I mean, nowadays, back in the old days in Formula One, you'd come in at 24, 25. Nowadays, mate, you're done 16, 17. If you haven't got yourself set in IndyCar, Formula One, NASCAR or supercars, by the time you're 19 or 20, you ain't going to make it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, there's just so much changed. I think in this particular sport, I think the challenging part with the sport is it's not quite professional. There is money to be made out of it. I think the athletes can do a lot better job. I think one of the things we do probably poorly as a sport is teach the kids how to communicate, how to look after sponsors, how to go after sponsors and actually hang on to sponsors. I don't think we've done a particularly good job as a sport of that. And I think that's something I would really like to focus on in the next couple of years. There's a million Shaw and Partners out there. There's a million Red Bulls. There's a million, that you can get money from.
Yeah.
You can actually go on, but you got to give something back in return.
For sure. I think a lot of like young athletes get confused with that negotiation.
Yeah.
They often reach out to a sponsor and think that they're just supposed to. They don't offer anything in return. And winning races in a C-grade sport probably isn't going to get you there. They need to be able to market themselves differently to these sponsors and be a little bit different.
Well, there's two types of sponsors. I said it when I was having a conversation the other day with someone. There's idiots like me that just love it, have got money and are passionate. So therefore you've got to actually get to their heart and you've got to play to that person's heart, build a relationship. That's the first thing. And then there's a genuine corporate sponsor, which is genuinely looking at eyeballs actually and what they're getting in return for their money. And they're the big corporates generally. Yeah. And they have to get a return because it's not their money. Yeah. Like I can afford to waste my own money. That's easy to do. But so for me, but there's plenty of people like me. The horse industry is full of it. There's no money made in horse racing. If you own horses, generally speaking, it's for the passion and they're putting in hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, there's plenty of opportunity for the athletes to go and actually get people to support, sponsor. Motor racing is full of it. You don't get a return on it. And yet people are following a certain kid and they're sponsoring a kid through to the pro ranks. But I think we can do a lot better job with the athletes on that. But getting back to your original question, the youth coming through, the effort that they put in, life gets harder as you get older because normally, 25, 26, 27, you want to buy a house, you might get married, you're in a relationship, you've got to go and work. There isn't quite enough money to take out of it. So you're blending all of that. When you're 18, 19, 20, 21, you're young, you don't have any commitments, you can rip in, you can, so I think it's harder as you get older to keep pace with the youth that's coming through. But there's some talented boys and girls coming through. Like I said, I think in the girls, incredibly, I'm really excited for the female division over the next 5 or 6 years. I think there's some super talented girls coming through from around the country in the sport.
Trent, do you think that has to do with the fact that we don't have a 19s, you've never had a 19s age group in any of your racing? Do you think that part of that reason we're seeing so many young up-and-comers ready to race opens and win races at such young ages, is that a downstream effect of what your series have done for the last decade?
Possibly, and originally that wasn't intentional. We were just like, we'd want to run some junior racing. We can only really get one done. Let's do the 17s. But it was fun because it takes the pressure off those kids that are turning 18 and they can focus on Aussies and they can, the competition at the under 19s at Aussies is incredible. But they can enjoy a summer where they're focused on, just training and enjoying it and transitioning through to the senior ranks. But at the same time, it's the 17s the under 17 racing that we've put under these, great arenas and built some prestige around them. They want to be there and they want to make finals. So by the time they're at 17s, they're taking the sport seriously. They're training hard. And that just flows through. So that by the time they are 18, 19, finishing school, got a bit more free time on their hands and they're training hard, they're straight into the open ranks and they're doing well and they're pushing and they got no holds barred.
No, they don't care, man.
It's a different generation. They're
ruthless.
Get out of my way. I'm
yeah.
coming. It's cool.
And the good part about the sport, it's so competitive now, to your point. You've got to be good at every leg.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the irons, not that I'm a great paddler, but I've got a pretty good eye for it. A lot of them don't paddle all that well. And if they actually lifted their abilities in their skill set, would do a lot better. Some of them are not so good on the swimming. Got to really focus and put some energy into that. But a lot of the girls and guys that are right at the top now, they're just good at every leg. You know, it's so, to your very point, you could just win one race for the year and go, shit, that's a big achievement.
Yeah.
Well, I think Naomi became the first person to ever win an individual Australian title in board ski swim. And that's what you have to be able to almost do to win an iron title now.
How good was her year?
Oh, mate. So complete, right? Honestly.
Unbelievable.
I'm surprised you didn't just hang them up. Where do you go from there, right? Just winning everything like that. Just like let's just touch on the series that's going ahead. Obviously, $500,000 prize pool. We have I think it's the 5 10,000s or the 4 10,000s again. Trying to more 7,000s as well, which is pretty exciting for everybody. Yeah,
we've shifted a little bit, and it's a subtle change, and it's one of those times we go back to the drawing board and go, how do we?
Is it intentional? Was it intentional to have another 7,000, maybe dial back the 10?
It is, and it means that because we're kind of. The reality is we're trying to make the playing field as close as possible to create some really exciting racing, because that creates better broadcast eyeballs. It creates more sponsors, more, a snowball effect. So things like having one less 10,000 makes only a slight tweak, but those 5 and 10, 7,000s are going to be just that little bit more important. People are going to have to go just rack up at least 1 or 2 wins. If they really want to win a series, they've got to be good in those second tier events. And then but you can't win it from those second tier events. But what it's done is given a bit more prestige to those 5,000 and 7,000 events. But we're going to have a lot of fun there. And that's probably the big evolution for this year is we want the user experience to keep evolving. We're going to add some live music in. We're going to add some, build the back end festival. We'll make sure that the kids are getting looked after. And we're really going back to the drawing board on a few key things and go, how do we run this better and slicker? Because we've got to keep evolving.
And Earl, how do you see that like taking place, with the Shore and Partners World Ocean Series? Like, how do you guys get better? Because I swear, like, I finish up a season and as an athlete and as someone who's very close to the sport, I go, geez, like it's going to be tough to keep going. Like, where do you find the enthusiasm? But like, where do you get the ideas? Like, where do you see it going in the next couple of years?
I think internationally has definitely got
no
scope.
brainer.
That's a definite. I think internationals coming out and actually wanting to be in our series for its totalum and not just 1 or 2, like we had a few come out from America, but there'll be people now as a result of saying, I think for me, there's 3 big ones. If in terms of individual events, you want to win an Aussie title, you want to win a Shore and Partners Shannon Eckstein Classic. I think that's a definite, and you want to win a Shore and Partners Gold. Like they're the 3 big ones for me. And other than obviously the 2 series, right? You want to be a winner of one of those series. But if you can win, even if you didn't win a series, but you won the Eckstein Classic, like that's groundbreaking, right? That's just unbelievable. And you can win on the Saturday, but not win the Sunday, which is the granddaddy, right? So I think just how do you continue to evolve? So it's internationally, it's probably adding another 10,000. Probably, but again, there's limitations of resources, manpower, all of those things. And I think what the guys have done over the last, 5 or 6 years, certainly that we've been involved with Trent, last 5 or 6 years, the 8 years that I've looked at the series, and the innovations have been awesome. Last year the youth challenge basically first time ever done, which was enormous. This year going and doing the 2 overseas. Enormous, right? And that does take money. It does take time. It does take a lot of passion. And to have 2 or 3 other countries ring on the back of it going, we want to run one. So hence the reason for the name change. The Shore and Partners World Ocean Series, where, you don't have to have crystal ball to think, gee, how big could this be in 5 years? This could be a genuine world ocean series. Maybe there is 10 women and 10 men that are paid professionally to run and to travel around the world and to it. maybe we do bring in some other big international sponsors. It's not impossible. You just got to dream, think big, and keep pushing. If you sorry to hog the mic.
No, you're right, mate.
good.
If you would have said where we are today, we would have been at 6 years ago. When I first sponsored it, I know, my first sponsorship 8 years ago, I've been involved in the sport now for 8 years. That's a long time. A lot of people have been in for a lot bloody longer too, I might add. Are they just going to be here for 1 or 2 years? If you would have said to me that our involvement would be for 8 years, the financial commitment that we've made to it, and for as long as and the things that we've done, I don't know if I would have said no, because we like to do things long term. But I look back at it with an enormous amount of pride.
Yeah.
Enormous.
Yeah, of course.
And I think, so where can it go to? The world's your oyster.
Where can it go to? Like, I just got back from France. I was lucky enough to be involved over there. But to be honest, they ran the show. And it's a bit of a wild card. So we've created a brand that's cool, that a brand that's got momentum and that people want to do internationally. But we put a lot of faith in the guys in France and UK to go, well, we'd love you to elevate an event and do it justice. And to see it come off, it was something that was exciting on the day. We see the depth of the fields. Like in France, we had athletes from Germany, Italy, UK, Japan, New Zealand.
Nearly like 100 guys in the iron or whatever as well.
Yeah,
like
the
big
depth
numbers.
was crazy. Like, it's just totally evolved since, I haven't raced in a long time, but it's just totally evolved. But how it came together, where these organisers they're putting caps on, they're making sure the vests are right, they're making sure the branding's right on the arch. I'm like, no, okay, I can sell this now. Like, we can, this is cohesive.
Yeah.
This is something that a multinational can slap their brand on it and then get some eyeballs. And then there's broadcast opportunities. Like, now that we've got a French event, the French are going to broadcast it.
Yeah.
So there's so much opportunity there, and it's going to come both ways. Those guys from France and UK are going to come storming over here, spend the summer over here and race all summer, and just get deeper and deeper. And then Australia's going to have none of that. They're going to be like, right, we've got 3 events. We're going to, whether we go to Spain or whatever, but we go to Spain, France, and UK. All of a sudden, there's a reason to spend an entire summer in Europe, sitting on a beach, maybe helping some kids learn, teaching some nippers. There's so many opportunities over there that the whole sport's going to globalize, and we just want to help if we can. And
how cool is that, right? Because like a lot of the humble beginnings that you had was, you and your family in the water with a couple of GoPros. Now you guys can, and obviously it's what people don't realize is
keep bringing that up, mate.
Is the Shaw and Partners World Ocean Series isn't a huge staff, and I know I'm not sure if many people realize that, but there's not a lot of numbers in terms of foot soldiers on the ground. How nice is it? Kind of the reception that you receive from surf lifesaving community that is willing to have and help you with these events all the time.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, we're just playing our part. Like, there's global, the International Lifesaving Federation and each national federation are doing a great job of doing the sport. Like, I don't want to take too much credit, and I feel like I almost did just then. But we're playing our small part in just going, oh, well, we've learned some stuff. We've learned how to, involve some partners and build some prestige, so that athletes that want to win a world title, but there should be athletes that are really proud to just make a final.
Yeah.
And go, I was a great board paddler in my day. I got top 20 in the series at one point. That's phenomenal. And if we build prestige around that, that flows through. So to answer your question, like, we're pretty stoked.
Well, if you like, again, you go back, it's hard to believe this year will be next year in 6 months' time, the 8th Shaw and Partners Channel
iteration.
Classic. It's unbelievable. But again, you just go back to that, which seems to as if it's gone like that. Who knows where it could be in 7 or 8 years? I look at we've been race ones now 2.5, 3 years old or something. I haven't been up here for a few months, but I look around the facility here with just an immense amount of pride, and I think, gee, seems like just yesterday. But the original question, where can you take it? The world's your oyster. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's where do you want to take it? Think big. It took me a couple of years to get these guys to change the name from that hokey summer of surf. And no, we're building something. It's our brand. What are we going to do? You're not thinking big enough. You can do bigger things here.
Yep.
And I think, I don't know, well, let me speak for yourself, but I think you're probably glad you did make the change.
Yeah, we are. It's, for a number of reasons, but, we're building something that we want athletes to be proud of their involvement. And it needs to be simple. You need to be able to say, when your mates are saying, what are you doing next weekend? I'm racing in the World Ocean Series. It sounds impressive right from the get-go.
Well, it is impressive.
Yeah.
It is impressive.
Yeah, and it is, yeah. So, good call. Thanks for pushing. We'll agonise over it for a few years, but it's been fun.
Sorry, I did touch on, and Earl, I'm going to throw you a curveball at near the end of the pod. you mentioned a couple of the events that we've got coming up, and it'd be remiss of me not to certainly acknowledge a couple of those. Pretty soon we've got the Shaw and Partners Coolangatta Gold 25.6, and there's been a little bit, a few old heads have got a bit to say about, me included, to be absolutely honest. I just want to touch on kind of what led to, obviously including the Coolangatta Gold in it, but then obviously not, cutting the race down. Just give our listeners, viewers, whoever's tuning in, a bit of insight to that decision and how you guys arrived at all that.
I think that look, first of all, really respect and appreciate the event. I don't really care for any of the conversations about, it's not really a goal and all that sort of shit, but people are going to have something to talk about, so you might as well talk about that, right? So,
sport's not big enough to talk about anything else.
Everyone's got an opinion, and sort of like, someone says to me, they're like arseholes, everyone's got one.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to have your opinion, and that's okay. Who's right, who's wrong, what's it really matter? Shouldn't we call the gold? Maybe we call it the silver or something. I mean, what does that all mean? Like, so I think where it really came from was, again, you have to keep things evolving. And the last, I don't know how long we've sponsored it for now, 4 or 5 years or whatever it might be, they take off, these wonderful, amazing athletes. See them for the first 2 hours while they're doing their 23K paddle or whatever.
And then they take off for another 30 minutes.
And you go and have breakfast and you talk just about anything else other, and then you go back on the beach and you see them and you cheer, and then they're gone again. To me, that just didn't feel right from a participation perspective. And again, to go back through history, the first couple of years when Leachy won the very first one, that was the original course from, it's never been run the same as the first 2 years since then.
Yep.
So for this 40-year iconic event or whatever it is, it's changed every couple of years. I think for 5 or 6 years it didn't even run, if I remember rightly. So, I always look at the Australian Open. Mark Edmondson won at Kooyong, the Australian Open on grass. Well, the Australian Open now is at Flinders Park on hardcourt or rebound days. So the world just changes and evolves. Where I came from with that, and I was an instigator of the change, one, I wanted more people in the series, so to give kids more of an opportunity to actually participate. So we raised it from 20 to 28 with SLSA's support, and they've been big drivers of it and were very supportive of the ideas. The second thing is we said, look, we'll renew our sponsorship, but I want it to be part of the series and I want to make some changes. And they were supportive of that. And then SLSA came along with lots of suggestions as well. And part of that was, let's make it an auditorium. Let's see the athletes come in and out so you can make it a 3-hour spectacle. To make it part of the series, we felt that people that qualified, and there will be half a dozen people or a dozen people that surprise on the qualifications, needed time to actually prepare, not only qualify for the series, but then 4 weeks later actually go and race this race. To ask them to participate in a 40K event is just not fair and too much. So we thought shorten the distance. That was driven by Wayne Drury, and he did a great job coming up with the format and how it should be done. I thought he's done it. I think Wayne's just been unreal, as has, like I said, SLSA. Lots of nervousness, lots of intrepidation. You're going to get a little bit of blowback from certain people. We're not trying to be traditional. What we're wanting to do is to be here to continue to evolve, continue to elevate the sport. So that was really it. It was all about saying, there's the hub. Let's see people come in every day. And also, too, from an economic perspective, to run a big event for 1,000+ people on a Saturday and then run the very next day for like 20 or 30 people, all the logistics that had to be kept in place. I just think it was just too hard. It was unreasonable. These great athletes go for presentations and no one's there. So this year we're going to do the presentations for all of the events on the Saturday in one location for everybody, where everyone's going to wait and people are going to be cheering for the wonderful achievements that everyone's made, not just the pros, but the amateurs as well. So that was the thinking behind it. It'll either work or it won't work. The numbers will tell the story. My guess is it's going to be a huge success. And in 3 years' time, you'll look back and go, that's unreal. And let me tell you, if I've won that race, I couldn't give a shit whether it was the original course, the one that was done 5 years ago, the one that Kane Eckstein won, the one that Ali Days won 10 of. No one's going to give a shit. Let me tell you, I'm going to call myself the Coolangatta Gold winner.
Absolutely.
So I think that was the thinking behind it.
Cool.
And thrilled about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I obviously have the podcast myself, and I think there's lots to like about the new course, and I think it's already been pretty well received. And you even touch on I love the fact that I don't have to get up for 4 hours on my Saturday. I can dial it back a little bit, and of course, I think a lot of athletes are pretty appreciative of that as well. Did you guys want to talk about anything else? Do you have last little?
Happy, mate.
I just like to go back to that. I'm not sure it's going to be anybody easier either.
No,
there's elements of that.
No way.
It's actually going to be.
It's going to be a harder race.
You're going to have to be on game, on point. And I think just Ali is a good example. Ali last year said, "This is my last gold." well, unless you're retiring,
Was it?
Mate, it's part of the series.
Yep.
And to be fair, I wasn't probably overly thrilled about that.
Yeah.
But love the sport, want us to keep going around, so I had to sort of come back. And it's going to be tough to win.
Yeah.
This is going to be tough to win this year for the girls and for the guys. It's going to be super tough. But final thing from me, just I just think the whole summer. I think for everybody, I like to thank everybody that is working really hard behind the scenes from all the organisations, from all of the clubs. Like these things don't happen without massive effort from volunteers. They don't happen without phenomenal training from the athletes. They don't happen from phenomenal sponsors, great product producers like Race One, like Cracker, like Boss, like Bennett. Yep. Everybody behind the scenes is working for their athletes, putting an amazing job in behind the scenes. So this summer's going to be huge. Lots on the line. What I'm loving the most about the last 6 or 7 years, every year prestige is getting elevated. You win one of these events, you've worked bloody hard for it, and it's a real kudos to any of these events. Yeah, I think.
No, it definitely is, and that's how it feels in the community as well. Like when you win one of these things now, it's a really big deal. Yeah. Like we touch on all the time. Like gone are the days of, again, I'm not just some local carnivals. When you win one, everybody be like, yeah, well, was it Aussies? Nah, don't worry about it then. But now you have all these events in a calendar season that you can come back and win. And like we said, like if you win one of those, you can hang your hat on that, and you've had a pretty good season. So
bloody good.
Couldn't agree more.
It's the best.
Trent, final thought at all? Looking forward to the summer?
A couple, like what Earl touched on. Like we've got a small team of 3 or 4 people that in the office, sort of getting the nuts and bolts together. But then we scale up to we have 30 odd people that are doing broadcasts and things like that, and just probably 100 volunteers on the beach, whether they're looking after the officials or officiating. And then it scales out to the the parents that support the kids to come and travel. Like we're very humbled by when we see things come together by just how many people are supporting this series, because otherwise we're just chipping away at something that no one cares about. So when everyone cares and everyone volunteers and puts some effort in, that's what we're building.
Well, pack up's the great example, right? Like you guys are packing up, and there's athletes that have busted their butt. They're coming down to buddy help you out, pack up. Yeah. We see it quite often with Race One. We'll do a pop up. We go to a massive event. We'll say to the athletes, "Can anybody come down and help us?" And they're all there swarming. Which is awesome. So,
it is a good community like that. Like I've always found surf sports to. I mean, we're not shy of tall poppy, but I think at the core, clubbies do like helping each other, and I think that's why the sport continues to grow.
I live my life looking forward, not backwards. I have zero regrets in my life, and I often say, mate, if I die and had to come back as someone, I want to come back as me. But I got to tell you, the one thing, if I did have a regret, if I did and I don't, is I didn't actually get involved in it, or I wasn't brought into it by my parents or whatnot at 15, 16. It is an incredible community and tribe, and it's just you're all bloody competitive and mongrels out in the surf and these races, but you all come back together as great mates in a community. Yep. And the fundamental effort of it all, you're just teaching people wonderful skills to save people's lives on the beaches, which actually goes sort of unannounced, unrecognised. But 300 plus surf clubs around the country actually manning the beaches all year round. It's just a wonderful, wonderful community and organisation.
Yeah, well said. Well, if that's us, I'll just say on behalf of the surf sports community, thanks to both you guys for keeping the sport afloat and making sure we have something to do with our summers. So thanks for tuning in for anybody who watched. I guess we'll see you guys on the beach, boys. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks a lot, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Cheers.